Hello everyone and welcome back to another race review of my Club 100 2022 season. This time we're going to be doing Buckmore Park, and as you can see from the footage, it was absolutely torrential rain and it's probably the wettest I've ever experienced it. The title is not a lie, this was the wettest race I have ever done in my life, but it was great fun and we did come away with a good podium. So I'm just going to talk through how the weekend went, some of the positives and some of the negatives of it, and just sort of talk through the footage that we were able to gather. So coming to the weekend, I did check the weather constantly to make sure that we weren't going to get weather like this, and for a good while it was saying it was going to be dry with a very slim chance of drizzle, and yeah, as soon as we got there it was fine. It was wet on the ground, but it was fine until around about 3 o'clock when the race before us was just finishing or midway through, and it started spitting, and then it started getting heavier and heavier, and it just did not stop until about 9 in that evening. So I knew we were in for a very wet race, so wetsuits were on and everything like that, and as soon as we got to the practice, I knew that this was going to be quite the challenge, as I've never done Buckmore or any Club 100 round in the full wet. I've done it in sort of wet conditions or drying conditions, but never full wet, so did not know what to expect. But for the most part, practice was okay. It was just trying to get used to how the kart felt in these conditions and everything like that. It was extremely slippery and everything like that. Trying to find the drying line was almost impossible. There was no dry line, and yeah, I was off the pace massively. I was in the 116s, 117s. I was like 5 seconds off the leader, which was you know, he's the sprint champion, so to be fair, not many people could be on his level during that weekend. But yeah, 116 wasn't great. We were looking like we were going to be at the back of the pack, which as a super heavyweight we didn't really want to be, because with our weight we should be able to get a bit more grip coming out into and out of the bends, so I needed to seize this opportunity and show that I'm a pretty good racer as well. And unfortunately the fastest that we got in practice was a 115, which was okay I suppose, but it wasn't fantastic. Then going into qualifying, I really wanted to put in the best lap, of course, that I could possibly do, so we could be as high up in the super heavyweight as possible. Coming off of Clay Pigeon where we got a podium, I really wanted to follow that up, and yeah, unfortunately as soon as that light went green for qualifying, every lap from that moment was yellow flagged. Every lap someone pushed it too hard and went off, which meant that we just couldn't put in a good lap time, which meant that I was a bit frustrated at the end because there's not really much you can do. But the lap time was improving as I was getting used to it, and in the end it was a 114.7, which was good enough for P20, which I wasn't massively happy with, but when there was yellow flags in every lap that I experienced anyway, there's not much you could do. So really it was starting P20, conditions were awful, so who knows what's going to happen in the race. I was just trying to sort of survive lap 1, that was the main objective, and just see what we could do. I wasn't really expecting the podium at this point. I just wanted to see, sort of learn into these conditions, because it was extremely dark, extremely wet, and it was still chucking it down, so my visor was completely, well, you couldn't see a thing basically, and that got even worse when we got into the race. So here's race 1 starting P20. Let's see how we do. So as I say, starting P20, and the formation lap, we got 2 formation laps because conditions were just pretty awful and it was just everyone trying to catch up. Had a few people spinning on the formation lap, so we did a bit extra to catch up. But as we all slotted in place, I was behind my friend Nicholas, and as the lights went green, I tried to get right up to the back of him, but I wanted to keep my distance because I couldn't see an absolute thing. As you can see, the spray coming off the tires, and I tried to go on the wider line and then cut back in. There's not really much gap, but then I saw an opportunity to get around Nicholas here, and then seize an opportunity there to late break, sort of in the middle line here that everyone's trying to find a line. There's a super heavyweight that's already lost it, and we're up to P4 in the class, I think it was anyway, as we try and go around the wide line here. It's not the cleanest of starts, but we've survived it, so that's something, as we're coming to the downhill section, which was the hardest part of the track for me. And yeah, I was just trying to keep it clean. Lap times were very slow to come around the bend here, and another guy losing it, so we get chucked onto the paint, which is extremely slippery, but luckily we're able to control it as another guy spins off, and then we come around, I can't remember the name of this bend, but it'll come around here, and we have made up up 5 positions in lap 1 as a flashing car there really put me off throughout the whole of this race as we come around the final bend onto the last bit, heading up to Cafe Corner. And it's not a bad first lap. It's not the fastest. We're a 1:17. It was 1:18.19, I can't remember, but we made up 5 positions, so we're in P15 now. And realistically, it was just trying to keep clean and put in consistent lap times as I was really trying to keep up with these guys, but struggling a lot on a lot of the bends. But there's lots of battles going on as people are getting chucked out of the way, hit because they cannot find a decent line. So there's lots of battles going on. So there's lots of opportunities to make up positions as these guys are fighting it into hairpin 2. But I just lose a lot of lines. There's another yellow flag there. Someone spins, going down to the downhill section again. Cannot see a thing. So many battles going on. No idea what the line is. One guy here takes the wide line, but he loses it. So that's another super heavyweight out of the way. And I think this is where we went to P4 in the super heavyweights, as another one went off just back there. And I think he was super heavyweight as well. So to be honest, I have no idea where we were at this point. That's another 2 positions gained on lap 2. So we're actually up to P13 at this point. And yeah, I'm still just keeping it clean, trying to just get the head down and make sure we don't make any stupid mistakes and try and catch up to these guys that are constantly battling. And all it takes is one person to make a bad move, and that's it. You know, there's another position game and they had to try and catch up. There's really no overtaking line. It's just trying to get the best exit, and that's how you'll make the overtake move. As we come up to the first hairpin, another person runs really wide, opens the door for 2 people to get through. I try and follow it out, but I don't get a good exit, so we just have to follow them going into hairpin 2, which is a bit of a shame. But you know, traction is a real issue at these in these conditions, and unless you know the wet line perfectly, you can't really make anything move. And as we go on to lap 4, I'm still not really comfortable with these conditions. No idea what the racing line was for these wet conditions. I was trying everything on every lap, taking the wide line, medium line, the normal dry line to see if that worked. Second hairpin was one that always threw me off. I got so much wheel spin. And as we come on to the last part of the lap 4, we found some pace as we're behind Tim Randall, who was also a super heavyweight who actually won this weekend. So I was trying to catch up with him as we get a good run down through Cafe, but I'm on the wetter line, so I have to make way for the guy who I was side by side with. I really hope to make that move, but unfortunately he just had a better traction and everything like that. As we try and catch back up on the first bend and go for a wide line again, leave the door open though, which allows someone to get through who must have found a really good line at that point. So we lost a position there, but it's okay because Tim's still within sight here, and that's the super heavyweight battle that we're really competing against here. So if we can just follow these guys and get to Tim, maybe we could fight him for a position. And as we get to lap 16, the lap times are looking much better as we put in a 1:13 on this lap. So really the lap times were getting much better. It was only 3 seconds off of Anwar, so it wasn't too bad. As a guy spins on the hairpin 1, so it's another position gain. As this guy goes really wide, try to get him in hairpin 2, but again, just ran out of time and traction and everything like that. Take a terrible line, to be honest, so that's probably why we didn't. But in the second part of lap 6, when we were on the 1:13 here, I'm much faster than this guy in front, and I'm just trying to find a way of trying to set up. I go for a really tight line, which I lose a ton of time here, and then I shoot wide coming out of that bit, and unfortunately that was it. He's gone into the distance, and that was a sort of wasted opportunity. But still, 1:13 wasn't a bad time, and if I could keep that up, maybe we could get past this guy. As we get into lap 7, turn 1, I get a much better exit, and I go side by side with him, but he's just in front, and because the yellow flag came out due to a spin, I had to just let him through. But this was a mistake because I came off the power a bit too much because of that, and opened the door for another guy as he shoots through into hairpin 2. And I think this guy was a super heavyweight. Yeah, I think he's super heavyweight. So I was fighting him, and I did not realize there's a very slow cart next to me that just went past. And I try and catch up to these guys because I really wanted to battle them. Did not want to lose out, but then coming down the hill, I just lose the back end as I touch the paint, and 4 people go through, which I was really irritated about because the race was going so well. I just got a bit thrown off by the fact that people overtook me, and yeah, we lost 4 positions there, and yeah, that was a bit of a shame really. And as we got into lap 8, 2 people are battling it out. One guy loses it, goes into the barrier, so I get past him, and then I'm fighting Nicholas here as I get a much better run out of turn 1. We'll get the wider line onto the hairpin one, and we make the move stick. So that's 2 positions gained after we just spun it, but there's a huge gap towards the next group or wherever they are, so there's really not much to do. And as we get onto lap 10, as you can still see, we're desperately trying to catch up. And actually this is where we got our fastest lap of the day of not of the day, of this session, of a 1:13.1, which was pretty good. We're still, you know, 3 seconds off of the leader, Anwar, but I was pretty happy with that considering I've never done these conditions in a race situation before. But we're trying to catch the pack. We can see them, but we lost so much time in that spin. It was trying to catch back up and try and limit the mistakes, and maybe they can make a mistake and then we get another position on them. And as we get to lap 13, I start catching a back marker, but just in front of him is someone that we're going to be battling, so I really needed to get past this back marker, but I was a bit worried because it's not easy to overtake it. I would have had to risk it at some point. And as we get onto the later section of the lap, I try and be smart and go around the outside to get a better exit, but I open the door and another guy shoots through again. Same blue helmet guy, I'm pretty sure, but he shoots through and we've lost more time as we try and desperately to get past him, but he keeps closing the door, this back marker. And, you know, to be fair to him, he couldn't see an absolute thing. No one could. As he goes for the wide line, I try and get on the inside line, but he closes the door dramatically again. And we've lost a lot of time there, unfortunately, as he almost loses it there, gets around hairpin 1, okay. And then later in the lap, as we're coming down the hill, he goes for these really weird wide lines, and I just cannot get past him again. I try and cut on the inside, he closes me off again. I try and do a switcheroo, but I tap him just a bit, and I hoped I didn't get a penalty there. I let him go through a little bit there, but it's really annoying there as he shoots wider on this line here. So I try and get a really tight cut back, and he closes me off again, but then he shoots wide again, and I get a great run out of this bit. And coming up to Cafe, we had made the move stick, so we just dabbed the brake a little bit so we don't overshoot and have to give the position back. And there we go, that's another, well, it's not a position gained, but we got past the back marker. But I'd lost so much time doing this that the guy in the blue helmet's long gone at this point. And as we come into lap 15, coming down the downhill section, I'm still really struggling with this bit. And this is where I'm losing absolute tons of time, and I'm actually doing like 1:14s to 1:15s. But as the blue helmet guy suddenly appears, he's made a mistake. I try and get a really tight inside line, which is where a massive puddle is, but I've got the inside line as we come up to the bend here, and again another tight line as we try and keep him behind us. And we do make the move stick, but we're getting so many bad exits. He's probably got a good run down to the main straight as another guy goes really wide, so we've made up another position which I didn't even know about. So yeah, we're doing okay, but that guy in the blue helmet's going to be coming up from behind very, very soon, and very, very quickly as we come to the mid part of the lap. And he has got in front of us, but then he overdoes it, overcooks it, and spins off again. I think that's the 3rd time he's spun in front of us, and well, it's good for us, it's not great for him obviously, but he's another super heavyweight, so that's another position gained for us. No idea where we are in the super heavyweight standings at this point, but yeah, with him out of the way, that's good news for us. Nothing really happens between lap 17, 18 and 19 as we're just trying to catch up again. As we get onto lap 20, we're catching another back marker, I believe, who's struggling around the track, and I thought this is the last thing we want. I don't want anyone from behind catching me, and then we're losing another position. And as we got to lap 21, we're directly behind him now. I cannot see because of the spray when it gets to the main straight, so I had to try and make a move here as we get a much better exit out of turn 1, and then we get the inside line for hairpin 1, and there we go, we made the move stick, and I was really happy with that overtake. Even though it was a back marker, we did it really quickly, which is a good thing because didn't want to lose any more time on that. And as we get to lap 23, we get another back marker that's in our way, and we've also got P2, who's Matt Horgan, I think his name is, who's got past. I try and make a move around the outside here, but he closes me off as he's constantly looking behind. As the blue helmet guy shoots up the inside, mega move. I was really worried he was going to take me out, but it cost me time because it threw me off, and the back marker gets back in front of me, which was really annoying. But I was patient here, so I dabbed the brakes a bit more as he runs onto the pavement. I knew he was going to go wide here, so I was just a bit more lenient on the brakes, I get a much better run down there, and I've got the outside line, and then I sweep it back, and then there we go, we get the wet line coming out into that bit, so we make the move stick. But the blue helmet guys got back in front of us, which was really annoying. That's what I was worried about when I saw a back marker. It is what it is. The guy in the blue helmet, who was super heavyweight, was just so much faster as well. There's not much I could do. And as we get onto lap 25, this is our last lap, and yeah, I couldn't really catch up. I mean, it is what it is. There's another guy shoots through. I lose a position on the last lap, which was a bit unfortunate, but there was a lot of people behind who had made mistakes, who were just naturally faster. And but all round, it wasn't a bad race. That one mistake cost me so much though. If we didn't do that one mistake, maybe I could have gotten Tim, and maybe that would have helped in the rest of the weekend. But it was a pretty good race. I kept it as clean as I possibly could, considering the conditions were absolutely horrific. I could have pushed more, considering I only got a 113.1, and we do in the second race get a bit more comfortable with how the track is, with all the puddles and the wet lines and everything like that. And following Anwar when he lapped us did help with getting some context about what lines he was taking and everything like that. So yeah, it wasn't a bad race, and it helped me learn more about wet racing. Finishing P4 in the super heavyweight class and P15 overall, making up 5 positions. It was pretty good, and still with the chance of getting a podium. But really, I sort of ruled that out. I just wanted to learn from wet racing, and this was pretty good. So yeah, so we will start in P15 for the next race, and really we're just trying to get in the top 3 for the super heavyweight. So here we go. Here is race 2. So arriving late for race 2, I was out of breath, and I had a massive stitch in my side, but we were raring to go, and I was really hoping that I could just get P3 in the super heavyweights. If I couldn't do that, then it's a bit disappointing, but you know, that was the ultimate aim of this race. As we all came out of the last bit onto the main straight, I was right behind the guy in front as it goes green, and we get a good start, but then I have no idea where we're going to go, because the inside line is the worst place to go, as so many people just get much better exits as we get overtaken so many times. But that was, luckily for me, a good thing, as so many people lose it, and we find a gap and we shoot through to make up about 4 positions as we find a sort of good line. But then I lose a ton of traction coming out of this bit, and I just try and keep it clean again. Don't want to lose it as another guy shoots through with the blue helmet. But again, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to keep it clean. We'd already made up 4 positions because of whatever happened in that first bit. And we're still sticking with them. We're not completely losing it as we come down the hill. I was getting much better at that hill section. I was letting the car slip out a little bit from behind and just getting better control and everything like that. So I'm getting far more confident with my lines as we get a great battle here, but I can't find the right line. So I try and stick to the wet line and get good cut back. But then unfortunately we make contact with the guy in the white helmet, which sends us back a little bit as the guy in blue helmet pushes us wide, and then we lose a bit of traction coming onto Cafe, onto the main straight, and unfortunately we cannot make it stick. But it was a good battle as we come on to lap 2, which was yeah, I was enjoying that. So that was a good lap. And as halfway through, I feel like I'm getting faster. The lap times are still in the 1:15s, but I'm feeling more confident with the karts as we're dropping back a little bit. But Tim Randall is still in sight, and it's a chance for us to actually battle it out for the position with him. And as I say, all I wanted to do was get past 1 super heavyweight, and actually in that instant at the beginning we did get past 1 of the super heavyweights. So technically we are in P3 currently, which I was really happy with, and all I needed to do again was just keep it clean as Tim and this guy battle it out again. There's a lot of argy-bargy, but there's not really much you could do. It's wet everywhere, so you can't help drifting into someone's line. As we come to lap 3, and Tim is right in front of us now. I needed to get in front of him. Well, I wanted to get in front of him. I didn't need to, or I didn't think I needed to at this point. And I felt like I was faster at this point, which was pretty good as I run wide there. So actually we're not much faster, but we're sort of equal. So I just needed to find an opportunity where he ran wide or something like that, and then we could get him. As someone spins there, and we get through, but we lose another position to us, another super heavyweight. So that wasn't actually good, as he tries to line up a move on Tim, and then at this point he goes for a risky move. He chucks it down the inside of Tim and knocks the guy in front out of the way. So we make up 2 positions there as Tim and I go shooting through, which is good for us. And probably a penalty going to the guy in the red suit actually there, which is probably where he got his penalty from later on in the race. As we get into lap 4, I don't know what happened. I made so many mistakes coming out of hairpin 2 that I lost, I think, 2 positions. Yeah, we lose 1 to the guy in the red, and yeah, there's not much we can do. I felt like our battle with Tim was coming to an end now, unfortunately, but I wanted to stick with them. And as we come down to sort of the final bend, I can never remember these bends names, we lose another position to the guy in the white helmet, which was a bit of a shame, but still a long race. And really, just as I say over and over again in this video, it's just trying to keep it clean and everything like that. And as we get into lap 5, we go onto the first bend, and I take a too wide a line that I have to lift off way too much, and another super heavyweight, I think, shoots through, which means that our chance of getting into the top 3 of the super heavyweights was getting worse by the lap, and I was just getting slower and slower, which was a real shame because the first few laps was looking good. But as we get onto lap 6, we're still battling, so there's still a chance. Everyone's still close together as the guy shoots it up the inside. It's a real fight going on every lap, which was good, but I needed to get myself involved in some of these battles. The more they battle, the more opportunities it comes for me. And as we go on to lap 7, we come down to the first hairpin, and the guy shoots it up the inside of Tim and just loses the kart, who knocks into him. Tim goes sideways, and that's his race ruined completely there, as they lose many positions. I think it was like 5 in total or something, and suddenly we're finding ourselves P2 in the super heavyweight positioning. So this was a perfect opportunity for us to actually get on the podium, and little did I know that the guy who was first in the super heavyweights actually was carrying a penalty. So it was looking even better for us, but I just had to make sure I didn't make a mistake like I did in the first race, and that would be our race completely over. But as we got onto lap 8, I just needed to keep my head down, and because we're in a really good position, and yeah, this was probably one of the most tense races possible because it's only lap 8 and we still got like 15 odd laps to go. But unfortunately, this is where the footage ends, because for some reason, because of how wet it was, my GoPro decided, no, it's had enough. So unfortunately, I cannot show you the rest of the race, which was actually really good, and I got some overtakes going, and yeah, we got some battles with back markers, which almost got us a penalty. But thanks to my good friend Johnny from Kart Bros, he sent me the live timings, so I'm going to put these up on the screen now so you can see our positioning. And we were actually P8 in the end, which I couldn't believe. Top 10 finish, but also P1 in the standings for the super heavyweights due to the guy who was in P1 got. And yeah, so our first super heavyweight win, technically, and our first or second top 10 finish. So overall, we got P11 for the whole weekend overall, which I was extremely happy with. And we got our second podium of the weekend, which was incredible. So a really great weekend. I learned a lot about wet racing, especially in the second race where times were getting much faster. In the end, my fastest lap was a 1:12.7, which I was very happy with. I was still 2 seconds off of Amwar's time, but for me, that was a really good time. And considering, as I say, I've never done a full-on wet race in these conditions. So for me, it was really good on this track especially. But yeah, a fantastic weekend, and what a way to end the season, getting another podium. And I'm a bit disappointed that I can't do the super heavyweights next season, but it is what it is, and I'm relishing the idea of doing the sprints, especially for the C3 class. And yeah, so thank you all for watching. I hope you had a good time if you raced there with me. I hope you never get to experience these conditions, because they're absolutely horrible, especially when you cannot see because the lighting's bad anyway. But yeah, it was good fun anyway. And a nice hot shower was needed after this because it was grim, but the podium made it worth it. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope this was entertaining. Let me know what you think in the comments below and all that YouTube stuff. And yeah, until 2023, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you with whatever I make next. Cheers, guys.